record this one just in case there's any questions. So you're looking good, buddy. How
Yeah.
you doing? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say I've got still have some color in my face right now, until I can get through this grant application. But
Yeah. I'm doing 3 of them.
I was gonna say I know you know exactly what I'm talking about.
I do. Not for Rural Prosperity Partners, but for Blue Mountain Networks.
Yeah,
Dang.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. I'm doing two. I decided to split ours, so I'm doing two for our area, but they're mostly carbon copies, so it's not that tough. They're right next to each other and similar size and everything, so I just have to get the numbers worked out. But yeah,
well, one
yep,
of them we're doing on our own. 2 of them are public-private partnerships, and whew.
yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Uh, Give it another minute or two. We're still a little early. Susan, appreciate that letter of support. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Susan, you want to do one for us too?
Sorry, what was that?
I said you want to do a letter of support for us too. I'm compiling all of ours right now too.
Sure. Who are you with, Justin?
Justin, Justin, yeah, he's doing all the heavy lifting down.
Yeah, we're with this is for my wave.
Oh,
doing our-
absolutely. Yeah. Sorry. Yes, I absolutely would write you a letter of
Oh,
support.
sweet. I will put you on my list here.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I didn't recognize you, Justin.
This meeting is
That's all right.
wow already. All right, Commissioner Dora, good morning.
Good morning, everybody. How are
Patty?
you? Life is busy.
Oh man. Wow. Yeah. There's so much going on just in the broadband world, and then you layer everything else on top of that. It's quite a
Busy.
busy time. Yeah. Anybody else going to the Regards to Rural conference up
I
in? Oh, good. I'll see you there.
am. Okay.
Yeah, that's a good one. I went last year and
Missed
really,
it last year.
yeah, really enjoyed it. It was really,
Hey, Joe, you and I get to just drive there and not have to spend the night.
I so Rachel was like, well, have you booked your hotel? I said, no. Why would I book a hotel? It's 45 minutes from my house. I'm not booking a hotel. So, all right. Well, good morning, everybody. It is really good to see you on this fine Tuesday morning. I have to check my calendar every day to see what day of the week it is because, as Justin and I were just discussing, we're in the middle of another grant application cycle, and it is a short one, and it is killing everybody. So
Oh
we're
boy.
The beast. It is a beast.
7 days a week and 10, 12, 14 hours a day trying to pull this together. I just I'm I'm recording this, so I'm going to be on the record. I just have to editorialize that with BDP, the ARPA, the state took several years to pull together the program and then gave us 30 days to apply. 30
Yeah,
days.
that's
And,
crazy.
and they announced it
Um,
the first day of spring break, where I mean, what? Uh, so
I'll only piggyback that to say they threw some changes in the last second in the application that were not there in the draft stuff that I've also made that a very difficult thing.
yeah,
Like I have to go get reviewed financial statements done during the middle of tax season. Thank you.
I
That's
know,
that's that's awesome.
right?
Calling CPAs right now. But yeah, yeah. So all right, I'm off my
All right, we'll get off our
stand
soapbox
on that
now,
one.
and we'll get the meeting started. So, and I put in here, we're congratulating Josephine County because they're one of our, sister counties to the west. They did get it looks like they're going to get a BTAP application or a BTAP grant and to do some technical assistance. We are still hopeful that an e-board meeting will happen sometime next month. And I know that Commissioner Dora has been advocating for that and lobbying for that, as have many of us, to try and get additional allocations out of the broadband fund for BTAP so that we can get some more planning dollars flowing into rural Oregon. The ask was 4.4 million for for a million and a half of funds. So it wasn't. It was wildly oversubscribed, which screams about the need for broadband technical assistance in Oregon. So while we're really happy for our sister county, we're hopeful and still not giving up on broadband technical assistance for the other counties. There is some money that's going to be flowing out of the USDA later this year for broadband technical assistance, and so we're keeping an eye on what that's going to look like. And there may be an opportunity there as well, but it would be easier and quicker to just get the money out of the broadband fund because it's there. So all the e-board would need to do is do an allocation so that we can get the funds that we need to continue.
So is that still going to happen, Joe? Do you think, or I mean, I thought maybe it did already happened and.
No, I think there's still, I know that Pam Marsh is in favor of this, and there's there's still pressure being placed on the e-board or the legislature to actually put this on, because the e-board hasn't met, and we're hopeful that this will be top of the list for them. So we just keep pushing.
Okay.
Yep. And Commissioner Dora's done a really good job with our Southeast Oregon contingency in the legislature and keeping them informed and bring them up to speed. So we're hopeful that will bear some fruit. All right, Justin and I were grousing a little bit about BDP. We'll go ahead and give everybody an update on BDP. BDP is the broadband deployment program. These are the ARPA dollars, $158 million for broadband infrastructure in Oregon. And so the window opened on March 25th, which for many counties many school districts was the first day of spring break. So ISPs have been struggling a little bit because that first week was kind of a loss, with many of the staff being out on vacation for spring break. And the window closes at 5 p.m. Pacific time on April 25th. They're estimating awards to be contracts to be awarded in sometime in September, and that's an estimate. We don't know how long it will take. So there's some.
Hey Joe,
yes sir.
Joe, just a quick question. I just wanted to throw it out there. I did see that they updated the FAQ that's now suggesting end of year, not September.
Great! I missed
for
that
doing
one.
that. So, yeah, there's if people want to check out the timelines, it's into the FAQ now, but they're actually expecting contracts to be completed by the end of the year. So,
thank
make
you
sure
for
everybody
that.
understands projected timelines. Yeah.
So, but we've got 30 days. I have to read. So salt in my wounds, So pros and cons about BDP. BDP is only 158 million. And it sounds like a lot of money where broadband infrastructure is concerned. That's not a lot of money. I mean, that could be consumed pretty quickly. They're limiting the applications to a maximum of 20 million per project. And so you can see even with that, then your 7, 8, projects could consume the entire grant application. So those are some of the cons. The pros are there's no match required, which is huge for small rural ISPs for BDP. With BEAD, there's going to be a minimum of 25% match, which many of us are looking at and saying, for these really hard to serve areas, we don't know how the business case will ever work with a 25, even with just a 25% match. I mean, you look at, some of these, where they're going to be $100 million builds, to get, if you, and I haven't done the math. I'm not, assuming that I know, but, you look at some of like Southeast Oregon counties, and if you take a region of those, you could burn up 100 million really easy. Well, then the ISP has to come up with a minimum of $25 million. And I don't even know how, could, sometimes that may serve, 5,000 households, and the revenue would never, ever, ever support a $25 million match. I mean, that's much less maintenance and operation of the network. So BEAD scares me because of that 25% match. And I understand the feds wanting ISPs to have skin in the game. But when we're trying to solve the hardest problems in the United States to solve, putting that minimum 25% match is pretty onerous. BDP does not have that. So you do get bonus points for a match, but they're not substantial. So you're almost better off going and serving a few more households rather than, applying a match to get the maximum 5% bonus points with a match. So BDP, and even though it's really a compressed time frame, and those of us who are applying are looking at it going, how do I get all this done? How do I get all this done in 30 days? It's still less of an application than what BEAD will be. So BDP has some real benefits to it. And, strategically, if we look at BDP and BEAD, so, in kind of in lockstep, BDP really can push that infrastructure a little further out, so that BEAD then is less of a heavy lift. And so if as a state and as ISPs or jurisdictions, if a jurisdiction is applying, if you're looking at it in a way to get the infrastructure further out into the hinterlands with this maximum 20 million per project, then what's further out there is less of a heavy lift with BEAD, and that 25% match is not as big a deal. I still think it's a big deal, but BDP really has the potential to be a huge stepping stone towards solving the digital divide in rural Oregon.
What's the sense of applicants, the number of applicants? Any sense?
I know that there are a bunch of smaller applications, like, and just what I'm aware of, like Beacon Broadband is going after some BDP money for, some of their project that wasn't funded by their RDOF grant. That's the Southeast Oregon coast. I'm sorry, Southwest Oregon. There is no Southeast Oregon coast. Southwest Oregon coast, the Southern Oregon coast. That's funny. That's what happens when you're not allowed to drink coffee in the morning. So, and Patty's laughing at me because she knows. She knows. And I know that Jefferson County is doing a county-wide BDP application. Morrow County is doing a substantive BDP application in southern Morrow County. I know they're doing that. Blue Mountain Networks is doing an application for north and east of Hermiston, which is an area that's unserved. It's a big area, about 1,000 homes. Justin has talked about he's submitting 2, but I don't know any of these that are even getting close to the $20 million mark. So it may be that because of the short time frame.
Or the southern.
I'm sorry, I lost you, Susan.
Who's in charge of the Southern Morrow County application?
So that's Nick Green with Catalyst. He's the former. Yeah, he's actually the contractor who is doing that. but
Okay.
it's through the intergovernmental group that came out of the broadband action team. So
Okay.
the county and the port basically are, partnering, and they created an intergovernmental agreement, and there's at 501 something something. So they formalized the BAT into a real organization, and
Okay. Yeah.
yeah.
I'm familiar with that. I didn't
Yep.
realize when I say Southern County, I still sometimes get mixed up.
Yeah,
Okay.
this was so, Northern County is a little bit better served, so they're actually going after grant funds to push the middle mile and last mile out from like the Hepner hub, because
Oh, good.
fiber to the home in Hepner, so it'll go north and south and east, and out of that area, hitting, I can't remember. It's like, I can't remember the mileage, but it's a substantive project. So, I know that there are a bunch of smaller projects. I haven't heard of any bigger projects. Um, Charles, are you still on the phone? Is Charter going after any of the BDP money? Do you know? Or can you say?
I can't comment on that.
You can't comment. Sorry, I put you on the spot. I shouldn't have done that.
That's okay.
I know better. But so I know there's a bunch of applications going in. I don't have a sense for, is it 158 million worth, or is the short time frame going to compress it to the point where people can't really take advantage? I don't have a real sense for that. If I will tell you, I know Zipley's going after some, in the Central Oregon coast. I know they've got plans for VDP. But I don't know about any of the big players, what they're doing. So, yep. There's a lot of scrambling going on. So any more questions about BDP? Okay.
And not a question. I just wanted to mention that MyWave, since they are submitting an application, they did request that we submit that the Harney County Court, the local government, provide what we could in terms of any partnership type of documentation to be included. So we're going to be doing that. We have it's an MOU, but it really reads a lot stronger than just an MOU to me. And it's on our county court agenda tomorrow for approval and signature. Justin has already signed it and all that. So hopefully that will help a little bit.
Great.
And yeah, and Joe and Rural Prosperity Partners, thank you. I know Joe helped give me some of the meat of what we put into that. So that's good. And I think that's it for this topic. Thank you.
Okay, great. Well, I'm excited. Anything that'll move the bar in Harney County makes me happy. So I live in Umatilla County, but Harney County has got a place in my heart already, I tell you. So you guys, I don't know. Is it like, you get infected, you go down for a visit, and then all of a sudden you're in love with the place. But that's what happened when I went to Burns and Hines and drove around. That was such a beautiful place. All right, bead. So the bead challenge process opens on April 22nd. So it is getting ready to open. And this challenge process, what they're trying to do is they're trying to make sure that the state broadband map becomes as accurate as it can be before they allocate any money for BEAD. So they want to make sure that it is absolutely accurate. So they recognize that some of the data that they've got is outdated. There have been additional, fiber. There's been additional fiber that's been built by providers all around the state. And so some of these unserved locations that are showing up are actually served. There are some where, and I am aware of, and none in Harney County. I'm not aware of this in Harney County, but in other counties, I know that there are ISPs who over-reported their ability to serve locations. And so, you know, there are locations that currently would not be eligible for BEAD that should be eligible for BEAD. And the challenge process helps us to clean up the state broadband map, which will be used to make decisions on BEAD funding. And so this challenge process is really, really important. There was a BEAD challenge kickoff webinar on Thursday, the 11th. And they're going to do another, and I've got it in the notes on the agenda. So 429, there's a challenge process Q&A, and that you'll have to go to the Oregon Broadband Office website, the BEAD website, to register. So there will be a place where a link where you can register online to attend that. And then they'll send you and I think they're using Zoom. I think they'll send you a Zoom link where you can attend that challenge process Q&A. So and I've given you a link to that website so you don't have to search for it. So, you know, I'm trying to be helpful. You guys can just click on that link in the agenda and it should take you right to that website so you can register. You can see all about the challenge process. Really, really important. I would tell you also for BEAD, they are doing a webinar today from 11 to noon for ISPs and contractors about pre-registration for the BEAD grant application window. So you can't wait until the window opens to register to be a participant in BEAD. You have to pre-register and pre-qualify. So they're trying to screen out people who are fly by night or shouldn't be involved or might mess up the process and some, you know, like Zoom bombers, you know, where people come in and mess with people's conference calls. That happened a lot during the pandemic. I haven't ever seen it on any of mine, but you know, this is the same thing with grant. They want to make sure that the people who are participating should be in the process. And so they're going to have a conference call today from 11 to noon. And then there's one for local government and economic development districts on how to participate from 11 to noon tomorrow. So if you want to participate in those, again, you can go to that BEAD link, and that should get you to the how to register for those webinars. So
Where is that link? Did you put that?
it should be that in the agenda, Business Oregon BEAD challenge process, and let's see if I can.
Oh, I think Lucas just sent that out.
Yeah, so I dropped in the chat a kind of one-page summary about the challenge process, and it has the links to register for the webinars as well as the link to the challenge page on OBL.
Okay, thank you.
Well, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Lucas. Gotta love Lucas. All right. And by the way, you know, for those of you who are wanting to be involved and you didn't get a CostQuest license, even though the state said you had to do it by the end of the year, you can still file for a CostQuest license and get it in pretty short order. So don't feel like if you somehow missed that window, that was a deadline that was artificially prescribed by the state, just trying to get people ahead of the game. If you need a CostQuest license so you have access to the actual fabric data, whether you're local government or, you know, a tribe or, you know, not-for-profit or a for-profit ISP or a cooperative, you can still apply for a CostQuest license and get that pretty quickly. So don't give up if you haven't done CostQuest. And there's actually a link on that website that and that's what spurred my memory, that Lucas sent out that talks about CostQuest licenses. So you can still get a CostQuest license if you need it. Don't feel like you missed the boat, even though there was that huge push. All right, questions on BEAD. And at the bottom of the agenda that I sent out, you'll see those dates on the webinars and Q&As that so you can put those. They sent out an email a week and a half ago that says save the date, and they put these down there. So I attached them down under round table on the agenda as notes, so you guys have those access to those. Okie doke. Nothing else on BEAD? Going once, going twice. All right, digital equity. So on, boy, there's so much going on. I mean, it's like my head spins every month, about how much has happened since the last time we met in the area of broadband. For local jurisdictions who are dealing with this and energy and water and wastewater and economic development and public safety, I don't know how you keep it all straight. I have no idea how you keep it all straight and still have hair, color in your hair. I have no, or hair at all. I don't know how you keep it straight. It seems pretty overwhelming at times. So that's why we're here, trying to make sense out of all of the noise, so you have it succinctly in front of you every month. So on Friday, March 29th, the NTI announced that the digital equity capacity grant allocations for states and territories to implement digital equity plans were released. So Oregon's initial $9.9 million allocation is the first of the total expected funds. We don't know what that total expected funds will look like, but they've allocated 9.9 million. We know there's more funding coming for digital equity. So this is a big deal. And I've given you a link where you can find the plan, the notice of funding opportunity, and other information on Business Oregon's digital equity page. And I know we have, Mr. Digital Equity here attending with it. Well, actually, he's like the assistant to Victor, who works with him. Victor's the face of it, because everybody know Victor. If you've ever attended one of the OBEC meetings, Oregon Broadband Equity Coalition meetings, you've met Victor. He is such a charming personality. And so Lucas wisely lets him be out in front, even though Lucas is doing a lot of the hard work behind the scenes. So Lucas, you got anything you want to add about digital equity?
Thank you, Joe. So I will mention that the state's digital equity plan was officially approved by NTIA. So you will find the most updated version on the OBO website. So if you have an older copy, go pull down the finalized version, because that is there. The expectation is that the states will be completing the NOFO application process over the next couple of months to receive their capacity funding. And then the states will be figuring out how they are going to be distributing those funds within the state. And as soon as the first state is actually awarded their capacity funds, that starts a clock at the federal level. And I believe it's within 60 or 90 days, the national competitive digital equity grant application process will have to open. That is another $1.2 billion pot of funds. We have been told by NTIA through a number of channels that not to expect small applications to be awarded out of the federal pool, because they have a limited grant management team. And so they're expecting to award large, at minimum state level, ideally multi-state or national level awards in the digital equity competitive space. So ideally smaller kind of state level or smaller applications should really be ideally going through the state level. We're assuming it's going to be a grant application process similar to BEAD. But we haven't seen the actual mechanics of what that's going to be yet. So more to come, but there's going to be a lot of action in the next probably 6 months around digital equity. So keep paying attention. If you're not participating in the Oregon Broadband Equity Coalition, we would happily invite you to join us. And I would strongly encourage, if you're not at least talking about the digital equity space in collaboration with broadband infrastructure, which is really BEAD focused, start having those conversations because the application processes are going to hit, and we don't know what the timelines are. If they're similar to how some of these other processes are, they're going to be pretty short. And you know, if you have some ideas ready and partners ready to go, that's going to make that application process more tenable and feasible. Digital equity is a hyper-local thing. We do not expect like a state level application. You know, no one's going to be the digital equity superhero for the entire state, right? Because your issues in Harney County are different than they are up in Umatilla County. And so understanding what those are and what you need to do to help the citizens of Harney County and everyone living there be successful are going to be unique and different. So start figuring those out. And if you need help and you need some guidance and or process or resources, please feel free to reach out. I know RPP is here, OSU Extension is here as well. I know we've been working with Lori on some ideas, and she's got some great ideas, and we're kind of helping to foster those moving along.
Commissioner Dora.
Thank you. That was very good, Lucas. You see today, Lori Silverman is here from Age Plus, so I just wanted to take a minute, and maybe she was going to speak or say hi at the end, I'm not sure. But Lori and her staff do some really great work, which relates to that, such as digital learning for adults. And we have an aging population and an aging frontier rural spread out population in Harney County in our and underserved areas. And so she and Julia Brown on her staff and myself had a good conversation about, I mean, just kind of brainstorming ideas. So things that aren't as infrastructure, but more like the human capacity of linking youth to the older adults, you know, even 4-H and service clubs and things, and taking on perhaps that as a primary mission, because you know how smart the young people are and how they can sit there and teach you something you never knew, even though you've been on the computer for years. So anyway, it was just an introductory conversation and invited them to be part of SEOBAT. And so Lori, if you want to just say anything, certainly glad to have you here today.
Patty, thank you so much. Joe and Lucas, nice to see you both. Age Plus is a nonprofit organization advocating for older adults. We work statewide. We recognize that there are a lot of older adults who aren't comfortable using their digital devices and aren't necessarily, they don't necessarily feel safe online, and that's an earned experience. And so we're very interested in working at the local level. Using Lucas's phrase of hyper-local is something I'm going to now repeat over and over again, because that's what we believe in, local partnerships on the ground. We're very interested in partnering with senior centers or community-based organizations that serve older adults and create local partnerships with perhaps the library and of course OSU Extension Office to build good curriculum for that is specifically designed for older adults to help them fight social isolation, access healthcare providers and services, and frankly, be online to participate in the overall economy in a very safe way. So we're really hoping to do some pilots in 2024, pilots in small communities. Harney County, we're looking at Burns. We've got our eye on you. We've got some good partnerships there, and we're sniffing around the state to do for some funds to do some pilots right there in your community. So that when this state BEAD money is open, we have some proof that our model works. Patty was right in saying that our model includes multi-generations. We recognize that part of the challenge and part of the huge opportunity to get older adults online is to connect them with young people, their grandchildren, everybody. But it's also a huge, huge opportunity to connect young and old in a way that I think we may have lost. If you think about how it used to be and way back when, and we think there's a whole lot of value in perhaps 4-H, FFA. We're open to get some of the young folks in the classroom with the older adults, maybe even earning credit at the community college level for that work. We're going to make something happen in 2024.
I'm excited.
Joe, can you, the funding for this work is coming through BEAD. Is that different than, well, maybe explain where this funding is coming from again. I missed that.
So we are in the planning stages of the pilot. So I'm talking specifically about a pilot so that we are prepared for when the BEAD funding $9.9 million grant proposal comes out, and we have a stronger application at that time.
Yeah, so
Right
that's
now-
the digital equity, not the BEAD. I'm sorry, Laura.
Correct. Yes. Thank you for that. What did I say? Digital equity.
Yeah,
Yes.
digital equity money.
Okay.
It's still an alphabet soup for some of us young to this conversation, not certainly young in years on the planet.
You know, even with BEAD, there is a digital equity component. We don't know how that necessarily is going to play out, but there's going to be a digital equity component. And it may not be specifically funded, but having a plan will be really important to be able to speak to that for the area that you want to serve. And so, groups like H Plus, and I've met with Lori several times, and her coworker, and love what they're doing. And the idea of engaging multi-generationally on a digital equity front is really, really exciting. So hopefully we can actually do a pilot there in Harney County and prove to the rest of the world what can be accomplished. So that would be fun. So I would add that Lucas had an opportunity to chat with the USDA's RUS, Rural Utility Services Administrator out of Washington, D.C. In Oregon. He was here, was it last week or the week before, Lucas? I can't remember. It's all a blur, but within the last couple of weeks, he was in.
Yeah, I think it was last week.
It was last week. It just seems like a month ago. And did a really, really excellent job of talking about the digital equity challenge and the benefit of focusing on digital equity. It was a really interesting conversation because, the administrator openly admitted that digital equity wasn't as politically sexy as infrastructure, because elected officials can point to how many of their constituents now have access to broadband that didn't when they took office. It's a lot harder to quantify the value to constituents of digital equity and access, digital literacy and access, affordable access. The ability to actually use the internet is harder to quantify. So that, Lucas did a good job. I was proud of how he represented Oregon and our focus on digital equity with somebody at that level at the federal government last week. So good job, Lucas.
Thank you, sir.
So Lucas, can you, this digital equity funds, so what agency, I guess, are they coming from? Maybe you could outline in the chat or something about just kind of the path of.
Yeah, so very, very similar to BEAD. These are coming from IIJA funds. So they're flowing through NTIA, and there's effectively two pots of money coming from NTIA around digital equity. Their NTIA will be has about half the money that will be a nationally competitive grant application pot of money. And then roughly the other half are going to the states as capacity funding, just like BEAD. So, the state will receive that $9.9 million of capacity funding for distributing or figuring out how they want to address digital equity topics within the state.
Okay.
So I don't know that we've seen exactly what the Oregon Broadband Office is planning. The assumption is that there would be a sub-grant program similar to how they're handling BEAD.
So are you thinking of potentially maybe partnering, and I've been attending the coalition meetings. Is there
Wonderful.
a sense that it might be valuable with the coalition to partner with some other states and apply on a national level instead of waiting for Oregon?
I think there is definite opportunity there. I will say that Victor and I, because we're part of Oregon State University and the Extension Service, we are actively engaged with other state land grant institutions. So Washington, Idaho, California, Utah have all been active in the space with us. And we, from a land grant perspective, are trying to put together what would a Western States Rural Development Center centered application look like into that nationally competitive pool. Oregon Broadband Equity Coalition is not officially established as like a separate 501c3 or anything like that. We're more of a grassroots effort being led in partnership with the Extension Service and Rural Prosperity Partners in Link, Oregon. So OBEC in itself couldn't necessarily apply for any of those funds. It would have to run through probably either OSU or Link, Oregon or Rural Prosperity Partners. But they're part of our hope in facilitating that group is to get more people active and interested in this space and build the connections. So working with Lori has been a perfect example. Lori's made some great connections and is working with us as well as some other participants in that group. And she is actively going after and preparing to go after digital equity funding. But yeah, we're open to opportunities.
How are the other land grant institutions approaching? Are they coordinating as a 501c3 and they're called?
I don't know that any of the other state land grants are necessarily running a state level coalition like we are. I think in that respect, we are somewhat unique. The intent for the other land grants, I think they're going after some digital equity funding through their normal university avenues. The regional, the multi-state approach that we're looking at is through the Western Rural Development Center, WRDC, which is there's kind of four that regional around the US. And they're kind of a land grant organization looking at community development and primarily focused on rural communities. And they do a number of different topics. We just have a subgroup that's focused on broadband and digital equity.
Okay. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
That's a good topic. You guys, I think I've told you that while infrastructure is a lot of fun, I think where we really see transformation of people's lives is in this space and that we're talking about now, and digital skills and literacy and equity, where I love the internet because the internet can enable any human being who has access to it to lift themselves in ways that they couldn't without that tool. So education, communication, being socially connected when, they may feel isolated, work from home. I mean, economic development, taking a brick and mortar business that may have been family owned for a generation or three and saving it by expanding into e-commerce and still keeping the brick and mortar, which is really important often, that heart of the business, but saving the business by expanding their ability to sell, nationally or internationally on the internet. I mean, all of the tools, it is astounding what we can do. And so the infrastructure is just step one. And so this topic is the one that really lights my fire, is getting people to where they can utilize the internet to its best and highest use. So it's not just Netflix and online gaming, which, I watch Netflix. I don't online game. I don't have time for that, but Netflix, so there's nothing wrong with that, but that's not going to change people's lives. So, this space is really, really important that we don't lose sight of that in this rush to get people connected, the infrastructure rush. So thank you, Lucas, for participating, and thank you for really thoughtful questions, Susan. That was helpful, I think, to everybody. Lori, thank you for all the work that you're doing. Keep doing it. Don't give up on us old people.
You're our future.
It's funny. I don't feel old, so it's just when I look in the mirror, I'm like, who are you? All right. So the Affordable Connectivity Program, which has been one of our, biggest tools to bridge that affordability gap as a nation, is effectively gone this month. There's some small amount of money left over, and there were some discussions with ISPs nationally who were participating in the program about partial reimbursements in May, if the ISP would go ahead and honor the whole 30. So anyway, but effectively it's gone. The opportunity to resurrect that, all of those opportunities at the federal government have passed us by. And so we're now looking at either not having something like that or having to do it at the state level. And there are discussions going on right now about that. I know that Representative Pam Marsh is starting a working group on reforming the state universal service fund to be able to take the Lifeline program and expand it to basically cover broadband at some level closer to or equal to what the ACP did. And they're just starting those discussions. So I know that there's discussions there. Commissioner Dora, I sent you a copy of a letter that I sent to Senator Wyden about this topic, and looking for alternatives. And the Federal Universal Service Fund is long overdue for total reform and restructuring. It was structured around voice products, and it's what supports schools and libraries and healthcare. I mean, it and Lifeline services at the federal level, but it's still voice centric, and all of the funding is coming from voice sales. So telephone and voice over internet protocol fees. And if you have a landline still and you go and look at your bill, you'll see that you're paying more than 30% as a universal service fund charge to the federal government to fuel this program, because as the number of landlines in the United States has declined precipitously over the last 20 years because of cell phones, they've just, instead of reforming it, they've just raised the percentage rate fee. It used to be in the like 6 to 7%, and now it's like 33 or 34. I mean, it's an insane. It's a fee. It's not a tax, but I mean they're effectively applying that to the cost of your landline voice product or VoIP product, voice over internet protocol product, to fuel these fabulous programs. And so I know that there's bipartisan work going on at the federal government, and that's what this letter to Senator Wyden, who is an influential senator. He's one of the more senior senators in the Senate now. This letter to Senator Wyden was to encourage him to support and maybe do leverage what he could to accelerate this reform of the Universal Service Fund at the federal level to try and bridge the gap for affordability. So there's a lot of work going on. We're advocating. You guys can advocate. I know we've got stuff going on at the state level. Representative Smith, I know you're on the phone, you get behind Rep. Marsh on what she's trying to do, support her, because otherwise, and I think I told you guys at the end of this past year, so December 31st, we had almost 250,000 households, not individuals, households in Oregon that were receiving the Universal Service Fund. I see your smiley face, Greg. Thank you. We're receiving the ACP funds. Greg distracted me with his smiley face in the chat box. So almost 250,000 households are at risk of losing their internet access at the end of this month because the ACP is going away. So we have to do something. I mean, we can't just leave those households stranded. So there's got to be a way, and that's what we're really good at as a state, is finding creative solutions to problems that everybody else says can't be solved. So, if people start talking to you about the Affordable Connectivity Program, help them to understand that there's still a battle going on to figure out a solution to this. And there are a lot of really good people working hard behind the scenes to move the bar on this. So as you talk to your local state representatives, encourage them to support Rep. Marsh as she tries to find a solution to this problem, and then we'll see where we can go from there. So, yep.
Joe, I see we only have a few minutes. I wanted to recognize and acknowledge that Ryan Bailey, who is part of our Economic Development Office under Greg Smith, and Ryan's going to be leaving us. And so he'll probably leave our BAT meetings. And I want to thank him for his involvement and support with me on things. And so appreciate Greg being on. And anyway, Ryan, appreciate you. I don't know what you're doing next, but I hope it's awesome.
Thank you, Commissioner. I appreciate that, and I appreciate the work that everyone here is doing in support of Harney County, and I wish everyone the absolute best of luck. And it was great to work with you all.
One of the fun things to watch over the years has been, as our state representatives and and Greg in particular wears, like many of us do, wears 4 or 5 hats. They raise up and train really, really fantastic people who go off and do really marvelous things. And so it's always bittersweet, when someone like Ryan leaves, is you're like, either working for Greg as a state representative or working for Greg in economic development. He raises up good people, and so it's bittersweet to see them, because there's always going to be a really cool story on the other end of their departure. So Ryan, we wish you the best of luck. And Greg, good job. Hire a good replacement, get them trained. That's your next job. So, all right. Real quick legislative updates. How we talked about the Oregon Broadband Equity Coalition already, so there's a link there if you want to get signed up to attend those. House Bill 4040 was signed into law, and so the Grant Application Review Committee no longer exists. There's a link to that final piece of legislation there in your agenda, and so the GARC, the Grant Application Review Committee, is no longer. The Oregon Broadband Advisory Council has that responsibility, because they're all volunteers, and the broadband office recognizes they don't have the technical expertise or the staffing to review all of these applications and help with the staff level support for OBAC. They have hired a company, and I don't know who it is, but they've hired a company to do the initial scoring, not editorializing, none of the artwork, and they'll do an initial scoring, give that to OBAC, the Oregon Broadband Advisory Council, which will then actually make the final recommendations on where the money is allocated for BDP, for BEAD, and also for digital equity funding. So those are my updates. Real quick roundtable. We've still got 6 minutes, so I didn't use all the time. Well, it wasn't all me. So what else we got going on? Anybody want to update the group on what they're doing? I know Justin's doing some BDP stuff, so you want to talk about that, or you want to keep it super secret? What do you want to do?
Other than, like you said, it's night and day prepping,
Yep.
getting everything ready. So yeah, it's gonna be a sprint through the 25th. While I'm talking, I'll just also update the that FAQ I mentioned. I pulled it up here so I could just tell everybody. So as Joe mentioned, application deadline was the 25th. And then they're going to be doing a posting of all of the application location data for everything that's being proposed for all applicants mid-May, beginning/mid-May. Then it's going to be what's called the curing session, where basically applicants can talk to each other, and if there's any conflicting or competing locations, you can actually negotiate between the companies that are applying or organizations that are applying, and then they can kind of resubmit any changes to their programs based on that. Then it goes into the challenge process. They're saying it's a 30-day process beginning early June. This is where applications can take public comments and challenges, and the challenge process is in the handbook for anybody that wants to go see how that's done. In July, they're going to be doing the adjudication of the challenge process. So they're expecting by mid to late August, they're going to be doing that evaluation and scoring that Joe was just mentioning with the third party. OBAC review following that in September. Intent to award announcement is now October. And then I think after that, you're going to see the contracts coming out and all the rest of that. So I just from the last time that's happened with us, I expect that that's probably going to be a 60-day period plus to be able to get the contracts together and for everybody and get them out. So just from what I've seen and what the FAQ shows, it's probably going to be end of year before signed contracts are in place, but hopefully they'll at least get the announcements out in October, and we can throw parties or something. I don't know.
Yeah, or weep and wail and gnash your teeth. Yeah,
that's the whole process, Joe.
That is the whole process. So, all right.
Yeah, but no, yeah. Thanks for what everybody's doing, and for all the support that everybody's putting into trying to expand things. I think just in talking to people in the community, I think there's a lot of energy behind this one, and so I think things are hopefully going to fall in our favor. So.
Thank you. So and I'm going to put you on the spot, Representative Smith, and I'm using the honorific because I'm asking you to put on that hat. So do you have a sense for a e-board meeting, and if there is an opportunity for an additional allocation of the broadband fund for
Sure.
broadband technical assistance to happen sometime in the near future?
So here's what I would share with you between now and the end of May. So in the next, 30 plus days,
Right.
the emergency board will be meeting. I do not have the agenda yet, but I'm glad you did ask this question. I will go, gang, and search that out to find out what the agenda is. And Joe, if it's okay, I'll send it to you, and maybe we
Great.
can forward that agenda out to everyone.
Wonderful. That would be fantastic. Thank you.
Yep. And then any supporting documentation along with this request, I'll make sure I forward that as well. So if it's okay, Joe, you can get it out to the whole group.
Yeah, that'd be perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
All right. All right, Justin, thank you, Representative Smith. You can take that hat off and be an economic development guy again. So,
Perfect. Joe, with that, I was going to say, Ryan, I love you. You're the best. Our door's always open to you. And gang, Ryan has promised that if we ever get stuck on something, we can always reach out to him, and he'll do whatever he can to assist us. So, Ryan, you're the best. We love you.
nice. All right, Justin, you got your hand raised. Yes, sir.
Yeah, just one last thing I just wanted to mention, just as an update to everybody. I know you were talking about affordable connectivity program. MyWave has recently got approval, and we're getting set up in the USAC system right now for Lifeline, which would also provide some relief. It's not as much as the affordable connectivity program, but we will be able to start providing that that relief as well for low-income households,
Right.
starting in a few weeks here.
That's great news. Good job. All right.
Took almost a year, but yeah.
Well,
Congratulations. Lifeline is important.
All right, Commissioner Dora, closing comments.
Just thank you all. Things seem to be moving along in a lot of different ways, and there's a lot of work yet to be done. And I'd like to see a lot more faces at some of these meetings, but it depends on, what the agenda topics are, I'm sure. We want to welcome internet service providers and entities to look at Harney County and think about BEAD applications when that time comes around. And so we may be putting out some type of a request or announcement of some sort, just to make sure they're out there. We know the challenges of the business model out here, but nevertheless, we are and underserved out here. And so it would be a great opportunity for somebody to do a lot of good and also get some good government funding to do it. So that's coming up.
Hey, Patty, I just had a thought. I don't know what made me think of it, but some of the features that Harney County, or some of what Harney County provides, and the reason the value of broadband is, and I may not be quoting it correctly, but Harney County is one of the largest exporters of hay to, is it China or Japan or somewhere? I just remember that Harney County is a large exporter of hay, and that's a huge economic development value for the county. So they need broadband. So the ranchers need broadband.
Except that our water situation.
Well,
yeah, no. And I think it's China. China is one of the big purchasers of some of the export hay from Harney County. Yeah.
So my point is that the ranchers in the far eastern parts of not just Harney County, but other eastern Oregon counties do need the broadband, because that is their part of their lifeline for being able to operate their business on an international level.
Thank you. That's good. Thank you. Appreciate that.
All right. Anything else? We're over by a few minutes. Sorry about that, but it's been a great meeting. I love meeting with you guys. I look forward to it every month. And we'll keep fighting the good fight. And, next month we'll have probably another full agenda to talk about what's happened in the last 30 days. So in the meantime, anything that you guys need from me, certainly reach out, or Rural Prosperity Partners, we're here for you. Good luck with the county court meeting. Is it tomorrow, Commissioner?
Yes.
Good luck with that. And we'll see you next month. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Bye, everyone.